General, as well as Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche. They announced two charges against Kimar Abrego Garcia. They also said that he had landed today back in the United States from El Salvador. We, of course, still have Kristen Holmes at the White House, Priscilla Alvarez also here in Washington, Elliot Williams, CNN legal analyst, former Deputy Assistant Attorney General. Priscilla, let me start with you, just because this has been something that you've been following so closely. Can you walk us through what we learned here? There was apparently a grand jury impaneled to investigate this indictment. Came down on May 21st, according to the Attorney General. What's next?
Well, this was a traffic stop in Tennessee that the Department of Homeland Security had released footage of while his court hearing was ongoing. But it was the most that we knew was that he had a brush with law enforcement and the footage of those police. And now, as you heard there from the Attorney General, they had pursued that further. That ended with that grand jury indictment in late May. But I think what's key here, Casey, is the way in which they framed almost the entire set of circumstances here, before indictment and after indictment. To remind viewers as to the before here, this was a case that began in March. This was Kimar Abrego Garcia was on one of the flights that was sent to El Salvador by the Trump administration. He had been accused of being a member of MS-13. However, he had been under withholding of removal, meaning he could not be deported to El Salvador. And it was the first time in this case that the administration had conceded that there was an error, that he accidentally had landed on that flight manifest. And it is what was the center of this very fraught legal battle between the federal judge and the Trump administration, as they have found that the Trump administration was stonewalling the federal judge at almost every turn and digging in their heels by saying he was not going to be returned to the United States. If you also remember, Casey, there was that meeting between President Trump and the Salvadoran president in the Oval Office where this exact issue came up, and both of them maintained at that time that he was not going to be returned, and the Salvadoran president at one point saying that he would essentially have to smuggle him back in. But what we learned here from the Attorney General is that this arrest warrant was presented to El Salvador, and it's changed the circumstances to what now gets us to the after indictment. So the way that they are discussing this now is that if he is prosecuted, he'll go to prison in the United States and then be deported. And he could be deported back to El Salvador, because this will likely serve as the basis to remove that withholding of removal, to remove any status that allowed him to stay in the United States before, to then take him back to El Salvador. So clearly there's still going to be questions here as to what this looks like moving forward for him, but still an extraordinary development after weeks, both publicly and in the court, the Trump administration saying he was not going to be returned to the United States.
School in Georgia, 18-year-old Michael Baker decided to stop by Burger King, where he works, to grab some food for his family. But after seeing how short-staffed they were, he decided to jump in and help out the team. That's when customer Maria Mendoza spotted him in his graduation medals while she was in the drive-thru line. Maria's daughter Daisy went to the same high school as Michael, but they didn't know each other.
But when I saw him, it's like my eyes locked into Michael, and my whole world froze for a minute. And it was just like me and him just there. And that was, I was so impressed.
Maria posted this video to her TikTok and woke up the next day with 1 million views. That's when she decided to make a GoFundMe for Michael.
So far it has raised over $6,000.
Here we go.
Over $6,000.
I'm surprised, and I feel very grateful, thankful to everybody that supported me, especially to Maria for setting up the GoFundMe and posting the TikTok, because it had changed my life dramatically.
Oh, you're welcome. You're gonna make me cry.
Michael was planning to take a gap year to save up for college, but the GoFundMe has since raised almost $200,000. Burger King and its charitable foundation also gave both Daisy, who's also a senior in high school, and Michael a scholarship for $10,000 each.
Now I get to go to college now. I don't have to take the gap year. And then potentially open up my own mechanic shop